Welcome back to Biomes. This time we are talking about the Haida Gwaii archipelago. Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands, is this small batch of islands off the northern coast of British Columbia in Canada. These islands have been pretty isolated for quite a while, and that means that the wildlife and plants there have had a long time to develop basically into their own entire subspecies, only of which that are found on the islands. Now, in more recent times, there has been quite a bit of introduced wildlife there, but I'm only going to talk about the animals and plants that are natively or migratorily found on the island, not any of the introduced ones. In addition to the very unique and interesting flora and fauna of the area, it is also an important archaeological site, as well as still inhabited by the native Haida people. The islands have been inhabited by the indigenous people there for over 13,000 years, so they have quite an extensive relationship with the island. And if you know anything about Canadian history with indigenous people, you know that they were treated very poorly by the government and Canada in general, so there's also that. The island was renamed from Queen Charlotte Islands to Haida Gwaii for the Haida people, but again, Canada, very bad history with indigenous people. The island itself has mostly forest areas, largely coniferous forests with things like the western hemlock, very large trees like multiple species of pine, and this one, the Sitka spruce. There's also the very toxic and poisonous western yew found here, as well as a couple deciduous trees such as this one, the red aspen. The undergrowth of the forest is largely small shrubs and ferns and berry bushes, including this one, the huckleberry, as well as a couple other berry species, including this one, the salmonberry, as well as thimbleberries and wild raspberries. And there's a couple different native flower species as well, including the false lily of the valley. Now, like I said before, almost all of the animals natively found on the island are a distinct species that is only found on the island, such as this one, the Haida Gwaii black bear, which is distinct from the mainland other black bears. There's also the pine marten, a little weasel that I am very much a fan of. These are like my favorite things ever. Again, a distinct subspecies is found on Haida Gwaii. Same with river otters, which are rarely found on the island but are still there, again, their own subspecies, and there used to be sea otters found around the islands as well, however they were hunted to extinction a long time ago. This is the Haida ermine, a distinct species, not subspecies of ermine that is again endemic to the island. The endemic rodents include things like this one, the dusky shrew, as well as a couple species of field mouse. There's quite a few different endemic species and subspecies of bats found on the island, including this one, the silver-haired bat, as well as 3 different species of brown bats, including my favorite one, the little brown bat. There did used to be a endemic subspecies of caribou found there, the Dawson's caribou. However, they were hunted to extinction in the early 1900s. Now the only large, grazing mammals found there are the introduced elk and deer, which were not native to the island. As for the birds, it's a very, very important spot for many types of birds, especially migratory seabirds, but you can find other things there, like quite a few bald eagles. There is, again, another completely distinct subspecies of northern saw-whet owl, the Haida Gwaii saw-whet, and I think actually 2 endemic subspecies of peregrine falcon, as well as a specific subspecies of northern goshawk. There's also a number of smaller bird species found there, including the Haida Gwaii Steller's jay. The island is also home to Canada's only nesting area for the ancient murrelet, so that makes it very important ecologically. And it's also home to a ton of different sea and shore birds, including the rhinoceros auklet, a couple different species of puffins, including the horned puffin, Many species of storm petrels, including this one, the fork-tailed storm petrel, as well as a ton of different gull and cormorant species as well. Haida Gwaii is also home to Canada's largest population of stellar sea lions, as well as a few other species of seal, including this one, the harbor seal, as well as the fur seal. And there's many other species of aquatic mammals off the coast, including whales such as this one, the gray whale, but also humpback whales and fin whales. And the waters off the coast of Haida Gwaii have been declared very important for orca whales, so they're now heavily protected. There's also quite a few species of dolphins there, including the Pacific white-sided dolphin, and this one's actually a video that my mom took when we went to Vancouver Island, so not Haida Gwaii, but still cool. The golden chanterelle mushroom is also very common there and quite a good foraging location for them. And sockeye salmon, distinct from kokanee salmon because they actually live most of their time in the ocean instead of in a freshwater lake. They come up the rivers and streams to spawn in Haida Gwaii. Historically, there were these massive kelp forests off the coast of Haida Gwaii, but they were heavily damaged and it decreased very much so. They are starting to recover now, but it is still a long process. And there's also a pretty big coral reef filled with a bunch of corals and anemones and sponges and clams and all of those sea urchins that is taking a hit due to global warming and not doing super great right now. Now, due to the fact that Haida Gwaii is so important ecologically and culturally and archaeologically, most of it is very heavily protected. A lot of the forests and reefs and ocean are conservation areas, and a lot of the island is also historical preservation sites. So everything on this island is very interesting and very important, and hopefully will still be around for a very long time.